Hello and welcome once again into the forest of It's a Frankly Hairy podcast. I'm your host, Frank Weber. I'm so glad that you could join me here today. I have some very special and exciting news for you. And I'm going to share that with you, of course. I have a little bit of a background story that I think is important for this as well. So I'm going to take a little bit of time in leading up to that. For those of you who have followed me to some greater or lesser extent here the past 2 years or so, I've been podcasting now. I guess it was since June of 2023. And I had an original podcast called Frank Weber's Party, and it was okay. I liked doing it, but it didn't really work out too well, didn't resonate, so I stopped it in, I think, November of that year. And then I started this podcast, It's a Frankly Hairy podcast, in April of 2024. And by the way, those of you who have been following me, I want to sincerely thank you. And of course, It's a Frankly Hairy podcast will continue on in some form or another. I'm not announcing that I'm stopping it or anything like that, in case you were getting that idea. But I enjoy these creative things. I try to create some value for you. And hopefully you find this show and other things that I've been doing entertaining or educational or amusing or something. The podcasts, of course, are not the only thing that I have been doing. I wrote in 23, I wrote a novel about a space cowboy that was stranded on a planet of women that didn't really go anywhere with traditional publishers. I'd like to publish it someday. But I also wrote a couple of other things that I think may be very good, including a fictionalized account of my time in dental school, which was very difficult and very traumatic. But I tried to add a lot of humor into it as well. I didn't get very far because I just didn't like the flow of it too much. It would have been kind of like a Patch Adams for dentistry, if you remember that movie with Robin Williams that was based on a book. I think it was based on a book. I don't remember. But I did that for a little while, and I've also, on my Substack account, for which this podcast goes through, I did some articles in 2024 writing about various topics, and some of them very deep and thought-provoking, and hopefully with the intent of getting you to think a little bit more critically and in a certain fashion. And I wrote, like I said, on a variety of topics, a multitude of topics, really. And anyway, the point of all this here, when you're doing creative things, I may have mentioned this before on this particular show. I think it was on this show. I mentioned it somewhere. But when you're doing creative things or you're doing something of art, if your recipient absolutely loves it, thinks it's wonderful, it really moved him or her, and here I am using, the two different pronouns again, but it moved that person and they absolutely fell in love with it, that's terrific. If he or she absolutely hated some work that I did, this podcast or a short story or novel or an article that I did, again, on Substack, if they absolutely hated it and said this is the worst piece of garbage or shit I've ever read or heard, you should go back to dentistry, or they don't always insult me, of course, but if they said something like that, that's also wonderful, because that means that I have moved them to some kind of emotion or feeling with my work. the worst thing in doing all this stuff is to be totally ignored, or people aren't moved enough to really comment on anything. And that's the worst thing. Like and they don't comment on anything, and you also don't receive any kind of feedback at all. And so I don't really know. I should be talking in the first person. I don't really know whether the work is valuable and interesting or moving, as in any kind of art that I've done so far. It would be the same thing, of course, if I was a painter or a sculptor or musician, movie maker, singer, you name it. But I want to share with you, and that's part of the reason why I tell you every day or every show to leave a comment or send a DM my way, because this show is supposed to be pretty interactive. So without further ado, let me just announce the good news. Yesterday, on Saturday, which was June 28th, I finally received a comment from an article I did on May 6th, 2024. And I was very, very thrilled to receive it, even though this person disagreed with me. It turns out that they were very cordial. I mean, they really didn't insult me. They kind of insulted the article, but they didn't insult me, but they disagreed with me. But finally, I got a response that I was like, yes, this person felt something enough to write me back. And I'll share that with you in a few moments, but I have to give you a little bit of a background on the story which I wrote. So again, those of you who have been listening to me, I think I talked about this on the old podcast, Frank Weber's Party, one time as well. And I know this may be of limited interest to some people, but I get sort of sideways on, I'm not really passionate, or even really maybe not even really sideways. Well, it annoys me though. I like to watch women's golf when it's on. Okay, LPGA primarily is what's on the Golf Channel as far as women's golf. I think they have a pretty good product. I think they don't tend to have the ratings that the men's tour does, especially the main PGA Tour. I think that's borne out in the coverage hours they get and other measures and such. But they have a good product. Generally speaking, I mean, they are good golfers, and they deserve their own tour. They deserve recognition. They deserve to play and win championships. My favorite is, of course, Lexi Thompson, who's basically semi-retired now. Mainly does just majors and some other select tournaments. And I chose her because she's a great golfer. I'm sad that she's retired or semi-retired now, but she absolutely being from, I think she's from South Florida, southeast coast, in there somewhere. I think that may be part of it there. She absolutely never wears these things called sun sleeves, whether she's wearing a short sleeve shirt or a sleeveless top or whatever. She absolutely does not wear these things called sun sleeves, which are these white sleeves that seem to fit very well on the player's arms and are apparently strapped to the shoulder, that are apparently used to reflect the sun's rays, because they're almost always white in color, and they keep the sun's UV rays from causing skin cancer and everything, because that would obviously be a big area for it. But I hate these sleeves. They've shown up here in the last, I guess they've been around for a few years, at least 15 years, maybe 20. And I just hate how the vast majority of players wear them, because they most likely still wear sunscreen on their face and neck. And but then somehow they're kind of like, well, I just don't need to wear them on my arms. I don't need to put that on my arms because I got these sleeves. And I can just take the sleeves off at the end of the day, and it gets, no sun exposure, and take the dirt off and everything. But then the players, of course, are always still going to shower after the round. So I don't know. I think they're just a waste of fabric. They look weird on hot days, and there are a few nice-looking women out there who should not have to wear these sleeves to cover up their arms. Just wear sunscreen is all I advocate for. So anyway, I wrote an article about this that I would encourage you. I'm not going to read the whole article here on the show, but it's called "Let's Discuss Those Sleeves in Women's Golf," and by yours truly, Frank Weber, from May 6th of 2024, with a subtitle of "Forgive Me, but I can't just get those." I'm sorry, I messed up the subtitle. "Forgive me, but I just can't get those pesky LPGA solar sleeves off my mind." So anyway, and I would direct you to my Substack site, which I'll have on the little summary here in a second. But somebody named Sunshine yesterday left me a message, so I will verbally say thank you again, Sunshine, for your honest comment, and I'm so grateful for finally inspiring somebody, getting them emotional enough or motivated enough to give me a comment and feedback on something or anything here. So let me go ahead and read that for you. Of course, I'm sure you can read this after the article as well. But Sunshine says, by the way, Sunshine reminds me of there's an old Hank Williams Jr. song that's really not a country song, called "All for the Love of Sunshine," which is from the movie Kelly's Heroes in 1970 with Clint Eastwood and Telly Savalas and a really great cast that you should check out. But I don't know, for some reason her name reminded me of that. But anyway, Sunshine writes, "The majority, capitalized majority, of LPGA players playing today at the Dow," which I believe was the tournament, pretty sure that was the tournament this weekend, 2025, "are wearing sun sleeves. A lot of them wear the sun sleeve shoulder. Here, let me start over here again. Can't seem to write or talk today here. Kind of tripping over my words. The majority of LPGA players playing today at the Dow," I'm not sure why it was capitalized, 2025, "are wearing sun sleeves. A lot of them wear the sun sleeve shoulder wrap so they don't fall down the arm. I see a few male caddies wear them as well. These ladies are doing their part to avoid skin cancer. My partner wears them golfing, and I wear them hiking. It's just easier than having to put on sunscreen and reapply. Your article is ridiculous." And so when I read that, instead of flying off the handle or getting upset about it, since I don't get a lot of feedback here, I went ahead and liked her article, pressed the little heart there, and this is what I wrote back to, I guess this is a her, it could be a him, I'm not really sure. But this is what I wrote back to her, I assume. "I know why," capitalized, "they use the sun sleeves and have mentioned the reason either in an article or podcast somewhere before. I think they look," capitalized, "ridiculous and may play into the LPGA's lower relative ratings. I wrote the commentary over a year ago, if I recall correctly. I think it is great that I finally got some kind of response. Thank you so much. I both like and appreciate your post." So, anyway, it's for that reason that I sit here and talk to you today. I'm very appreciative to Sunshine that even though we disagree, which is another thing that I wish we had more of in our society, is the ability to agree to disagree, as they say. But what was more important to me and what really brightened my day is that I finally got acknowledged that the material that I have been writing isn't entirely in vain. And I try very hard, no matter what I do, to write things of value and things that will move people and maybe inspire them to be better, perhaps, than they otherwise would have been, or at least provide them, or at least motivate them to feel something when I write something or speak something into this microphone. But again, that's one of my main goals of this show. And so anyway, I'm so thankful to Sunshine, and I just wanted to share my joy here in the forest today with you, the audience. And I look forward, of course, to hearing your comments and DMs, as always. So, and actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I know there have been one or two other people who have commented in some fashion, but this is the first time I think that there was a real dissection of the material that I talked about in this article that I'm telling you about. And so I'm very thankful for that. But anyway, I just wanted to share that for you today. And thank you again for listening. Just a couple of things before I go. I know I mentioned this off and on, but I did finish reading the Bible cover to cover. For those who are interested in that, I would highly recommend it. And whether you have a concordance or footnotes, or basically what we would call a study Bible or not, read it for yourself and interpret it. And I guarantee you that you will know more as a result of doing that at the end than you did at the beginning. It's a tremendous journey. It took me 8 months, and that was at an accelerated pace somewhat. You can, of course, take longer or maybe even shorter, but the crazy thing is right now I don't really know what I would do for an encore. I'd like to go back and read, portions daily and as part of prayer time and whatnot, but I feel like I'm kind of at a loss, like what should I go back and read again? But I don't know, I'd kind of like to know something about what happened in the years of the early church after about AD 100, because as you know, the Bible historically and prophetically, outside of the book of Revelation, which I suppose still is to take place sometime in the future, but historically and prophetically, it really doesn't go past about 100 AD, and I'm always curious about what happened in those early years to kind of take the church sort of off course or on a different course than it is now. I have a lot of big opinions on that, and what the deal is today with organized religion, and while Christians are called to serve, I mean the church itself has to serve believers as well as those who are seeking something higher or someone higher and seeking more significance. So anyway, I just wanted to update you on that, and anyway, doing great in school. Probably have some more school stories here for you in the not too distant future. Really enjoying those classes, all the great opportunities that could come about from that. And then this also is the week of 4th of July here in the United States. One more time, I believe this is number 249. So happy Independence Day to everybody. Happy 4th of July. Hope you go out and celebrate and party and realize how grateful you are to be in this country, and just for the sake of independence in general, independently and collectively, be thankful for that, and hopefully shoot some fireworks and eat some hot dogs and everything as well. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there for today, this week's show. Forgive me, I didn't know how to talk this episode. I am recording at a little bit of a different time, Sunday evening, than I normally would be, but I thank you for joining me here in the forest. Look forward to seeing you here again next week on It's a Frankly Hairy podcast. Again, sharing is caring. Tell everybody you know, or just even acquaintances you run into wherever, about this show, and to tune in each and every week. And there's a share button on the page. There's a subscribe button. And again, love to hear your comments and your DMs, something other than just hitting the like or just kind of a generic greeting. Would love to hear something content-wise like Sunshine has provided. So without further ado, don't know why we have to borrow a French word to say this, but I will call that a show for this week, and I'll see you again next week. Thank you so much. I love you. Love you for your support. Bye.